Alright guys, so we're going to do a tire delete kit today. Should be pretty straightforward, hopefully. So we're finishing up the look on the Outer Banks Heritage Edition. We got the spear on in terms of the pinstriping. We got the roof wrapped. And next step is to get some tires and wheels. But I think we're going to do a tire delete just in case we want to put heavier tires and a swing gate on this. So let's get to it. Alright, the first step is to take off the back tire with the 19mm. Just take off those 3 bolts and remove the tire. Just be careful not to mess with the camera. So, tire is off, no problems, and I laid out basically everything in the package. I would say the packaging is top-notch professional, man, all wrapped up, and looks pretty nice. And I'm gonna strip that all out, take all the paper off, see what we got. So I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with the quality of the stuff. I mean, the powder coating is, you know, pretty nice smooth powder coating. Electronic housing. Really a nice job. So they even give you a little bit of a bottle opener with their like little logo on it. I'll show you what that's all about coming up. So all the tools are here, so next step is figure it out and go from there. Alright, so I got my box of Trisalto tools. If you are working on your Bronco, you probably want to get these things. So I got this particular plastic one. What you do is you just kind of inch it behind here and you pull this off, and there's 3 clips along the left side. They just come out, and there you go. That opens up the back. Okay, so after you take that cover off, you'll see the 3rd brake light and the camera connection. And what you want to do is just get in there and pinch that, and these disconnect. So you'll fool around with that a little bit, and it's a little tricky. You find the release pin and they pop right out, no problem. Okay, at this point your wires are free, and basically you have the grommet right here. So what you want to do is there's 4 push pins here, here on the bottom, and on the other side. And what you want to do is you want to push those simultaneously while pushing that out, and then feed the wires through the outside of the tailgate. Okay, so the next step is to remove these 8 bolts that are holding on your tire carrier with a 13mm socket. And what you want to do is remove those, hold the tire carrier while you were doing those last few, remove it from the vehicle, and then make sure you keep those bolts, because we're going to reuse those to put the tire delete on. I got the tire carrier off, really no problem. Take those bolts and it comes right off. Although I did hit my first surprise. And the first surprise is when you take the tire carrier off, the weight on the hinges is a little different. So when you go to close it, it doesn't really close. That's going to need an adjustment. So I'm not quite sure how to do that at this point, but I'm sure there is a way to make that adjustment. But that's kind of a surprise. So just so you know, when you take the tire delete off, it's going to be, the weight's going to offset the hinge, and you're going to need an adjustment on that. Okay, so the next step is to remove the fasteners on either side of the backup camera with a T30 Torx. That would be this screw and this screw. And then on the other side, there's some foam that we're going to take off. Ah, There you go, the foam just popped right out. No problem there. And I think our next step is probably to release this clip, or maybe cut it away, and probably disconnect that camera, is what I'm guessing. Okay, so basically surprise number 2. So I've removed the push clips, and the directions say to remove the top screw of the camera retaining clip by using a T20. I can't really find the T20, to be honest with you, so we're going to take, I think, this off using T30s and dismount stuff and see if we can't figure this out. Okay guys, so it looks like the directions, I'm kind of winging it at this point. I'm not very clear exactly where that T20 was. So anyway, I took off the T30 nuts that held the brake light on, and now I'm looking at, I think, some T20s back there, but that still doesn't help me with the camera T20 that's in here that needs to come out sooner or later. So anyway, forging on. I'm just going to try to wing it now. Just start taking stuff apart, I guess, and try to get that apart and then see where I'm missing that in the directions. But I don't know where it is. Anyway, there's 8 screws here that we're going to take apart, T20, and we're going to separate the brake light bracket. Alright, so I removed the screws. Hold up. Let's see. I removed the screws. We're going to try to take this apart, I'm assuming. Alright. Looks like that came apart. And okay, so at least we can get to the back of this and disconnect all the wiring that we need to connect to free that up. Okay, so we're going to unravel what's left, and then we're going to basically release the clips here and release this camera here. Man, that plate is tough to get out. The T20 screw is actually way down in here. This plate has to come out. And in order to get this plate released, because it was in there huge, I had to basically use this pry bar, come from behind it, and really muscle that thing out. That is something that definitely does not come out very easily. So once you do that though, then there's the T20 nut that I'm gonna release that I missed in the directions. So you got to get this plate out first, and it's definitely tough to get out. So we'll go ahead and release this and release the camera and snip up the rest of this, clean it all up, and move on. Alright, so we basically got that out. Then you just basically release this right here, take the camera out, and set that aside. And we're going to get this out. Alright, finally got it loosened up. We'll clean it up. We'll move on to the next step. Moving ahead here. We got the camera mount, which goes through there, like so, I guess. Yeah, okay. And then this drops into the electronic housing. But these nuts do have some sort of coating on them that you will need to strip off before you can do anything. And be careful when you strip them off, because you can screw the threads up, which I probably have already done. So this basically, I believe, drops in like so. We got the camera mounted pretty good, so I believe that's how that will work. And this is the brake light. So we're just going to align these pins up, and then we're going to fasten those. All right, we got everything put together there. That should be the brake light, and that should be that. Only one little issue here is, doesn't seem like, as much as I've tried to seam that up, it looks as though there's a little bit of a gap on the back of that brake light, and I believe that's because I think this bracket is pitched down a little. I'm not exactly sure exactly what's going on, but because it's powder coated, I don't really want to get in there and do too much, so I'm going to kind of leave it the way it is. Pretty nice. Alright guys, we got the brake light and everything on, so now we're going to put the wiring harness back. So what you got to do is you got to basically take your wiring harness, you have to put your hands through here and take the longer end and just come out through the vent like so, and just kind of let those hang, and then come back in, and then just reconnect your camera and your brake light, and then flip over your tire delete kit. And what we're going to do is take the stripping they give you, and we're going to put stripping along all the edges, and then flip it over and you know, reconnect, put it on the back. So let's see how it goes. Okay, well, looks like we got pretty much the base plate back on. You feed the wires through the top, and you put on basically 6 bolts. Leave these 2 bolts off until we figure out how to put back on the brake and the camera. So it's coming together. All right, we got the base plate on, 6 bolts, and the wires are in place. We got this put together, hopefully correctly. So we're going to assemble this. This basically bolts on here. We'll feed the wires back, we'll connect them. Then what we'll do is we'll tighten them up a little bit, start her up, make sure the camera and the brake are working, and then we should be complete. Okay, so a couple of final touches on the adjustment to the tailgate. So basically loosened all these screws here, and you can see I had to make a slight adjustment. You can see the difference where the paint was, where the original location was. So go ahead and make that adjustment, and doesn't seem to be a problem at that point. I kind of fooled around with it a little bit. Took a little bit of trial and error to figure out exactly where you want to do that, but at the end of the day, that's closing pretty good. No notifications on the dash. So yeah, it looks like we figured that one out. All right, so one final check on rear view camera. Looks pretty good. And you still got your guidelines are still there. Everything looks pretty good, and yeah, pretty happy with that. Definitely where the camera location is. So it worked out pretty well. All right, guys, finished job. There you go. Tire delete kit. Looks like I even found a place for my new Outer Banks badge in the meantime. So we'll just kind of roll with that, and looks like the Heritage is kind of coming right along, you know. So appreciate you watching. Hope it helped out, man. So good luck. Got any questions? Post.